So I just got out of Menards and I think I found the absolute coolest inflatable I've ever seen. How freaking cool is that? Hey, what is up internet? This is Kyle with Slapshot Toys doing issue number 3 of the Pool List. This week I have 3 different comics to review and of course our spotlight book. From DC Comics we have Batman number 29 as well as Dark Knight's Metal number 1. From Image Comics we have I Hate Fairyland number 15 and our spotlight book also from Image Comics, Reborn. First book we're going to take a look at this week is Batman number 29. Written by Tom King, probably going to mispronounce this, but art by Mikel Janin. Basically what is happening in Batman right now, this giant Gotham City-wide war between Joker and the Riddler. And so far what's happened is Batman's pretty much stayed to the background because he says he can't really do anything about it. In this issue he decides to try to take a more hands-on approach and have a traditional French 7-course dinner with both Joker and Riddler, and that's it. Yeah, and I'm not kidding, a 7-course dinner. It's that crazy. I honestly don't know where to start with this book. So I've been very on the fence with Tom King's run of Batman for all 29 issues so far. I think he's had some fantastic ideas over the course of most of his arcs. It's just the way that he goes about writing and the style he puts into Batman I just had not really enjoyed a whole lot. Basically all inner monologues of Batman just sitting there brooding like, oh, I wish I could beat this guy. I wish I could be happy. Blah, 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 blah. Tom King is a phenomenal writer. It's very evident that he is. He's just not the greatest Batman writer, in my opinion. And so I think he's had some great ideas from some story arcs, but his execution has been really off. And once again, I feel like it's the book. I mean, we have this entire Gotham City-wide war between the Riddler and the Joker. Nothing's really happening. Like, Batman's not involved at all. He's just kind of sitting back. And I don't know, it's just like each issue only moves like maybe 5 minutes into the story. Like, nothing moves forward. There's no real big reveals, nothing. It's just these like little plot points that if you've read any of the issues, you already know what's going on. Like, you know this is a giant war. You know that they're tearing Gotham apart. Gordon and Batman are both just kind of sitting there like, well, what do we do about this? It's just boring, to be honest. And this issue's no different. I'm like, you're having, one, it's absurd, in my opinion. You're not going to have the Riddler and the Joker who are in the middle of this giant turf war. Not only that, they have all their villains behind them. Like, so they're sitting at a dinner table, and there's like Two-Face behind Riddler, there's Poison Ivy behind Riddler, I don't remember who's on whose side, but they're just like all their little posse of all the villains that have joined whichever side are all just standing there in Bruce Wayne's manor, eating a 7-course French traditional dinner. How absurd is that? It's not gonna happen. It's ridiculous. They're sitting there talking back and forth about why they want to kill the Batman. Bruce is trying to play the mediator. It's dumb, in my opinion. Like, I'm very frustrated because Batman is obviously one of my favorite characters. I buy every issue, but it's just like these arcs are just so boring, and it's not getting any better. Like, we're almost 30 issues in, and it's like I get one issue I really like, and I think, oh, Tom's got it. He's gonna actually execute this one well, and then we get something like this. So this is my frustration with Batman. I really didn't enjoy this issue. I kind of just started skimming it at the end. There's a fairly decent, but even the ending's so dumb. Like, whatever. It's just not my thing. If you enjoy the Batman, if you enjoy Tom King's run, awesome. I'm happy that you're loving it. Just for me, it's just really lacking, especially after the Capullo Snyder run. Next up, we're going to take a look at the newest DC event. This is Dark Knight's Metal, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo, and inks by Jonathan Glapion. Now, this is the newest DC event that's encompassing the entire DC universe. What we've actually seen in the 2 prequel issues, Dark Knights The Forge and Dark Knights The Casting, is Batman is investigating this kind of mysterious dark matter, this dark metal, not really knowing what it is, just knowing that a lot of the artifacts that the DC characters use are made out of this metal, and not realizing what the power is. So this issue is actually going to be the first issue of the mini event series, whatever you want to call it. And what we're seeing here is the entire Justice League team starting to find some answers about what exactly this metal is and what Batman has been looking for these past 2 prequel issues. What we get here is actually this mysterious mountain just appears out of nowhere in the middle of Gotham City. So the entire Justice League go try to check it out. And what they find inside the mountain is basically this giant bunker with 5 characters in cryostasis. And then we meet a couple of the Black Hawk group, which if you have been reading All-Star Batman, they have been involved in there. And they basically explain that they've been studying this dark metal for quite some time, and that there's this giant threat that they thought was just blank space, but it actually turns out to be the dark universe, and this metal is attracting that dark universe to the normal DC universe. So basically, like I said, this is the first issue, so we're getting a lot of setup. Basically, they just explain kind of the whole thing to the whole Justice League, because it was really only Batman at the time looking for the metal in the prequel issues. So it's just a lot of setup. Doesn't really move the story a whole lot. Don't really get to see any sort of villains or anything like that. They just talk about the threat that's coming from the dark universe. Now, I'm more of a Marvel guy. I'm not outside of Batman and Deathstroke, I'm not really a big DC guy. So the issue I have with this is that some of the stuff I'm reading, and I think they expect you to already know some of the characters and some of the multiverse type things that have happened in previous events and things like that, and I just don't know it. And for me, comics should be one of those type of things that I can pick it up, read it, and have a fairly good understanding of what's going on. Now, I get the basic overall general plot that they're moving towards, but it'd be kind of nice to some of the characters that they talk about, some of the things that they reference, having a really good understanding of what that is. And so that's the only thing with this book. I was kind of like, well, I kind of feel like I had to have a PhD in DC Comics to really thoroughly enjoy it and really get the most out of it. And I don't think that's what your comic should be. But overall, I think the story is going to be really good. Like I said, this is the very first issue, so it's going to be world building, it's going to be plot building, those type of things, not necessarily giving us all the answers at once. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And of course, Greg Capullo is the artist, and he is phenomenal and pretty much the reason I'm in comics. So the art was fantastic. Absolutely love that. I just wish it was a little bit more basic, if you will, and not relying so much on not the previous events. But if you're definitely curious in the DC universe right now, definitely pick up Dark Knight's Metal. Next up, we're going to take a look at I Hate Fairyland, or as in this case, I Love Fairyland, number 15 from Image Comics. Now this is written and drawn by Skottie Young. Skottie Young is really well known for his baby covers for Marvel. His art style is very unique, and it's one of those ones that the second you see it, you know it's a Skottie Young cover. But basically, to get you caught up, this I Hate Fairyland centers around a little girl named Gertrude. She was a child. For her birthday, she made this wish that she wanted to visit a strange fantasy world, and she gets her wish and gets sucked into this fantasy world where it's just, you know, it's pretty much a Disney movie come to life. You get all the crazy characters, all the real colorful details and all that type of stuff. Really, really cool. A lot of fun. Like, it's kind of Candyland. It's just awesome. But anyway, so basically Gertrude gets sent to this land on her birthday wish. They give her a little kind of quest. They say, if you find this key, then you can go home. What ends up happening is she actually ends up spending 30 years in this land looking for this key with her little trusty kind of conscience guy, Larry. And over those 30 years, she hasn't aged a bit. Like, she still looks like she's the 5-6-year-old girl that she was when she first went. She has become very bitter, very angry, very violent, and basically just, yeah, just an awful person. So pretty much this whole time she's been just like killing and just rampaging through Fairyland. And the last issue we actually saw Gertrude kind of, well, the last arc, we actually saw Gertrude kind of have a change of heart and want to be good. And she thinks that might help her get home, as if she kind of stops her killing psychopath ways and goes back and actually tries to be nice to the citizens of Fairyland. So the last issue, we actually saw Gertrude searching out for a set, and if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, a set of artifacts that would restore her name, that would completely wipe clean everything bad she ever did. Last issue, she found those, was able to wipe everything clean. So this issue, and the reason for the I Love, we have a brand new, innocent, childlike Gertrude just gallivanting across Fairyland, doing all the quests that she needs to do to be able to get this key to go home. But she has wronged so many people in the past in this world that they don't want to let her go home. So what follows is a fantastic issue of just a lot of great jokes. That's one thing I love about this book, is the humor, some great colorful characters, and it just moves the story on nicely. And I'm curious to see where Skottie Young's going to take this next. But this is a fantastic book. If you just want something really fun to read, if you just want to read, be entertained, some phenomenal colorful art, a lot of hyper violence, not so much in this issue, but the previous issues, there's a ton of just hyper violence, which is really cool, especially when you see it like in this like real cartoony, colorful setting. So this is an awesome book. Yeah, if you want something just real light, real fun, make sure you pick up I Hate Fairyland from Image. There's 2 trades out so far, and the third one should be after this is the last issue in this arc. The next trade should be out as well. Can't recommend it enough to pick those up real cheap on Amazon. and then that way you'll be caught up with the book. But it's a fantastic fun read. And that brings us to our spotlight book. Now this week we're going to be taking a look at Reborn Book One from Image Comics. Now this is written by Mark Millar and art by Capullo. Basically, this tells the story of a woman named Bonnie. We meet her in the stroke ward of a hospital where she is speaking to her daughter, actually about all the people that she has lost in her life, her husband, mom, dad, those type of characters. And she kind of gets very honest with her daughter and is like, I really don't want to die. I don't want to die like this. Unfortunately, that's what ends up happening. Then Bonnie wakes up in a whole new world surrounded by the people that she knew and loved and grew up with, but they look completely different. And they're all telling her to prepare for war, that she's their savior against the world of darkness. So basically the whole story here is a very straightforward kind of fantasy, heaven, hell, good versus evil type story. What we get is basically there's a light side where all the good people go, the dark side where all the bad people go. Pretty much like your typical fashion, the bad side wants to find a way back into our realm, the normal Earth, and cause havoc. It's a very interesting book. It's a very easy read. It's like I said, it's very straightforward. You've seen it 100 times, good versus evil. You can pretty much, as soon as you hear it's the two sides warring against each other, you know kind of what the end goal for the bad people are and what the good people are going to try to do. It's very kind of paint by the numbers, which I'm actually a little bit disappointed in. I really wanted to like this book so much more than I did, and I did not enjoy it. It was just with the creative team of Mark Millar, who's known for Kingsman and Kick-Ass, and Capullo, who is the reason I'm in the comics. With those two, I just had such high expectations, especially Mark Millar. I feel like his writing is much more kind of complex than this, where it's so simple. And one of the issues I kind of had with it was for me, for fantasy writing, world building has to be at the forefront. It has to be a very interesting world. Like we've all seen, like most fantasy books are all the exact same kind of story, good versus evil. Like the rules and the world building has to be at the forefront. You have to give me something, an interesting setting. You have to give me a hook in that world, and this book just doesn't do it. And it could be because it's the whole thing is it's almost like reincarnation into this new world where you're then thrust into battle. And one of the cool things that it does give us as far as rules and things like that, there's no real form that you're born into this new world. So Bonnie, she died, I forget what age she was, but an elderly lady in our world, and then is reborn a 25-year-old. But her dad also explains that you don't always get reborn into this world directly as an infant like you would be born into our world. I thought that was a very kind of interesting idea. Some of the questions I really had where they described that you can have children in this new world, so people were getting married, having kids. But it's like, well, wait a minute, are they reborn? Are they basically dying people in our world and then they were reborn as children? Or are they all just brand new people? And then they do, obviously, in this new reborn world, they can also die. It doesn't really address it. Kind of does at the end, kind of what happens there. But there's just a lot of things I thought they could really expand upon to make this world extremely interesting and just make it more fleshed out. And there's even one point where they actually, in one panel, like our main character Bonnie was asking some questions about the world and how things work, and the answer was just, it's best not to dwell on it. Don't worry about it. Like, just best not to think about it. Just accept it for what it is. And I was like, that's kind of lazy storytelling. Like, this world could be so fantastic. It has a lot of very interesting ideas, and they could have taken it so much further, but yet it was very thin. And that was the only thing that really kind of frustrated me with the book. But as far as the art is phenomenal. Capullo absolutely kills it. His character and monster designs in this book are really at the forefront, especially the main baddie. I think he looks absolutely fantastic. Really just kind of metal, which I expect from Capullo. But the art can only take it so far. Like I said, it's not a bad book at all. I enjoyed it for a very straightforward, very formulaic type fantasy setting. Just don't expect something like Saga, something that's very layered, something that has, or even God Country, like I just reviewed on Friday. Don't expect something real deep, real kind of meaningful, real moving. Just enjoy a good paint by the numbers fantasy story, and this book will more than serve you. So that's going to do it for this issue of the Pool List. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out these videos. If you guys have read any of the books that are reviewed, please let me know in the comments what you guys thought of them. Love to talk comics with you. If you guys have any sort of recommendations for a spotlight book, please let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for brand new things to read. If you guys are enjoying these videos, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for all future content. I have a couple more pops I should be reviewing here soon. I have a hot toy, Doctor Strange. that was supposed to be here very early next week. They charged me Wednesday, saying it was going to be in the warehouse early, and I still haven't gotten my shipping notice. So I contacted them yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, it's going to be another week." So I'm like, wait a minute, that was the original payment date anyway. So whatever, it's just sideshow, yeah, whatever. But so hopefully I'll have that, probably not next week, but the week after. So I'll get a review up on that as soon as I can. But other than that, make sure you guys go ahead and like and subscribe. That way you guys don't miss out on any of that content. And once again, that's going to do it for me. So I'll catch you guys later. See ya.